2024 has come to a close, and it is that time of the year. It's time to reflect back on the year and talk about some of the best and worst games that I played in 2024. I decided this year to do something a little different. So instead of listing my top 10 games of the year, like most other content creators have probably already done by this point, I decided that I played a lot of games last year and I wanted to give each a bit of time to share my thoughts after playing them. I played 23 games that released last year and have listed them from worst to best. This of course is my own list, so the games featured here and ranked are of course a reflection of my own tastes and feelings after playing them, and I'm sure you have your own thoughts on what were the best games you played last year. But I hope you enjoyed this video and hearing my reflection on the games I played in 2024. There are a lot of games to go through, so let's dive in. Coming in at 23, and the worst game I played last year, is most definitely Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. To see the once great developer Rocksteady, known for the incredible Arkham series, release such a hollow and soulless live service title that really, other than the voice acting and cutscenes, didn't really have much going for it, it just broke my heart. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League was just everything wrong with live service games. The story was pretty mediocre. They absolutely butchered some of my best and favorite DC heroes, from Batman and what happened to Batman, to Wonder Woman, to Superman. Just awful. The level designs and the gameplay was just shocking. I don't know who thought giving the Suicide Squad guns would make, for one, a better premise, and two, better gameplay. I literally forced myself to beat this game, and the only reason I did so is because I did a full-on review of it. It was that bad. I felt I had to share my thoughts on it, and I beat the game in about 17 hours. So thankfully, at least it wasn't a massive game, but I really didn't enjoy it, and I certainly wouldn't recommend buying it at full price. If you are interested at least in the story and you are a DC fan, then I would recommend buying this game on the cheap. Get it discounted, most definitely. But it was easily number 23 on my list and the worst game I played, and yeah, I legitimately hated like pretty much every moment playing it. I think there was only one mission in the game that I kind of enjoyed, which was the sort of bit where Batman is kind of stalking you, like in the Arkham games. That was really cool moment, but everything else was pretty poor, pretty bad. And I just hope that Rocksteady can recover from this. I hope that they can get back to what they're known for, which is fantastic single player action games. And yeah, it didn't feel like Rocksteady, and it kind of broke my heart. It was the worst game I played this year, most definitely. Coming in at 22 is Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. I actually did not expect this to be at the bottom of my list this year. When I started 2024, I was incredibly excited for Hellblade 2. It was one of my most anticipated games of the year. Hellblade 1, Senua's Sacrifice, was my game of the year when it released, and I absolutely loved it. I loved it a lot, and so I was very excited for the sequel. And I'm not gonna lie, I was disappointed in Hellblade 2. I actually live streamed it because I was that excited, but I felt when I was playing it that I was just kind of going through the motions, and it really didn't grip me. It really didn't have the impact on me that the first game had, other than the visuals and the look of it, which was quite, impressive. I would say in every other aspect it was incredibly disappointing, and it was worse off. While the combat wasn't great in Hellblade 1, I was expecting them to improve on it in the sequel, but actually I felt that the combat was worse off. They actually simplified it, and the combat tended to be more one-on-one. and more focused on sort of parrying and attacking than the original, where you could sometimes be attacked by multiple enemies and you had to sort of dodge and duck and choose who to attack. I thought the combat system was much better in the first game, and I thought the puzzle solving elements was much better in the first game too. I was disappointed in the sequel in the puzzles. They weren't great, and also the story really didn't grip me. It didn't have as much emotional impact as the first game did, and for all intents and purposes, it was actually shorter than the first game. So in many respects, I was incredibly disappointed. And that is why it is so low down on my list this year, which was really, broke my heart a little. Coming in at 21 is Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn. This is from A44 Games. It came out kind of middle of the year, around about July. It got sort of overshadowed by a lot of other games, but I was kind of interested in it. It looks really cool. The main character is called Nor Vanek, and you have this axe and a pistol, so you'll wield two weapons, and you have this really cool fox-like creature, and it was a little bit of a mixture between kind of like Souls-like combat along with some sort of magic from your companion. I was really interested in this game when I saw the trailers, and I jumped in on it, and I'm not going to lie, I haven't played that much, and it may well have been higher on my list had I played more of this game, but it really didn't grip me, which really disappointed me. I thought the story was just okay. It starts off a little slow, I would say, so it may well improve as you play more of the game, but then I found the combat to be just a little janky, not as fluid, not as good as I was hoping it was going to be. And when you are playing a Souls-like game, you really do need that responsiveness, and so it felt a little rough around the edges, most definitely. This is from the team that did Ashen, and I've heard great things about that game. It was one of the reasons I was interested. I am going to go back, I am going to beat it and play it, but yeah, it didn't hook me in, and I didn't enjoy it as much as I was intending to and hoping to, but I'm still gonna finish it off and play it back through, and hopefully I can do that this year. Coming in at 20 is Rise of Ronin. This is from Team Ninja, obviously the team that brought us the Neo series. I played about 5 or 6 hours of the game. Actually, what I played, I did actually really enjoy, but it's not higher on my list because I haven't completed it and played more of it. But it's kind of an open world setting, set obviously in Japan during the Sengoku era, I think. You get to create your own character. You have a twin, I think, who you get sort of separated from at the beginning. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I felt that the combat was actually pretty good. I actually think it's more friendly than the Neo series combat, so it's a lot more accessible, but the open world sort of exploration was really cool. They do a really good sort of recreation of some of the cities like Yokohama, for example, and you have this really cool glider, these wings that you can glide above the city and explore. So the little bit of it that I played, the 5 hours or so that I played, I really enjoyed it, and I am definitely wanting to jump back in. But I think if you're a person that likes open world, very simple, straightforward open world games where there's lots of things to discover on the map, and there's sort of more old school open world, like Ubisoft style open world, I think you're going to really enjoy Rise of Ronin. And the voice acting was very good, although I would recommend the Japanese voice acting over the English voice acting, because I didn't think the English voice acting was as good, especially when it comes to some of the NPCs. But yeah, Rise of Ronin, I enjoyed it, but it's not higher on my list because I didn't play as much of it, obviously. Coming in at number 19 is Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. I played this back at the beginning of the year. I can't remember when, but it came out in February, and I played it all through to completion, and I have good memories playing this game. It's a Japanese action RPG, and it very much has like Tales of Arise vibes to it. It's very simple, very straightforward. The story I played all the way through, and I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the cast of characters. I played this game at a time when I was really sick. I had tonsillitis, and I was off off work sick. So I ended up playing this game. It was recommended to me by Edge, who is a huge JRPG fan. And I'm not going to lie, I really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the banter between the companions. And I actually found myself really enjoying the combat and the synergies that you could do with your companions. And yeah, it was a good time. So if you like your Japanese, your JRPGs, I think you're going to enjoy Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. And it's not a massive game either. I actually beat it in 24 hours. So that's pretty good. It's a good size, not too big, not too small. So I definitely recommend it. Coming in at 18 is Pal World. I played this at the beginning of the year. Pal World basically took the world by storm in sort of January, February of this year, and everybody went crazy on it. And Dante and I actually jumped into Pal World through Game Pass because we wanted to check it out, and we played about 7 or 8 hours of the game. For the most part, we kind of enjoyed it. This is it's not really my cup of tea. I'm not really kind of a crafting style gamer, sort of survival crafting, which is what part of this has got some of that. But Dante's a huge Pokemon fan, so I thought it would be kind of cool to check it out. And yeah, we actually had a good time. This game is definitely fun to play cooperatively, and I recommend it. If you've got friends that are playing it or interested in playing it, it can be a good time, you know, to play together and hunt down pals, which you can you know, fight alongside, which was kind of awesome. You can ride some of them, which was cool, and then actually you can build bases and craft things, and the pals will actually like work in your campsite, and they each do different jobs, and they each have different specializations. And I thought that was really cool. As someone who is quite familiar with the Pokemon games, and especially through Dante, and you know, one of the key criticisms I've always had of Pokemon is that they don't really push that franchise far enough for me to try new things. And Pal World was interesting for me because it was taking those sort of concepts of like catching creatures in the world, but then using them in a really interesting way. So I enjoyed Pal World a lot, and I definitely recommend it if it's something that you're thinking about playing, especially if you've got a Game Pass. I'd say it's worth jumping in and checking out if this is your type of game. The 17th game on my list this year is Dragon's Dogma 2. This I was kind of excited for. I haven't played the first Dragon's Dogma game, but I had a couple of friends that were really excited for the sequel, so I decided to jump in and check it out. I definitely have mixed feelings on it. I thought it was an okay game. I enjoyed the bits that I played, and I played about 26 hours of the game, so I put pretty good amount of time into it. I wasn't particularly blown away by the story. The story for me was pretty mediocre, was pretty disappointing. But the concept of it and the minute-to-minute like gameplay is really, really, really fun. I think that the true essence of Dragon's Dogma 2 is about the journey. So the traversal in this game, and the fact that there isn't really much fast travel in the game, and the idea is that you kind of travel from A to B, you know, on foot, and you discover things along the way, and crazy things can happen, especially with your companions. And some of the fights, like the boss fights, very much give me vibes of like Monster Hunter, and so there were some really awesome funny things that happened in terms of fighting creatures and dragons and different things, and then like crafting stronger gear, and there's different kind of like classes that you can fight as. I think I started off as an archer, and then I ended up going into sort of dual wielding, but you can clamber up onto some pretty big sized monsters, and it's a lot of fun. The combat and the minute-to-minute gameplay is quite addicting, so I can absolutely see why this would be higher on people's list. But as you all know, I'm a huge story gamer, and so because the story for me was not great, that's why it's lower down on my list than it may well be for other people. Coming in at 16 is Destiny 2 The Final Shape. I played this in June when it came out, and I played it cooperatively with some friends. I have been playing Destiny since the beginning, obviously. I jumped in on Destiny 1 as soon as it released, and The Final Shape was an exciting concept for me because it was the whole idea of, you know, bringing an end to the Light and Darkness saga. It was a culmination of a 10-year story, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed playing The Final Shape, and I actually thought that Bungie landed the ending. I thought they did a great job. There's some fantastic sort of level designs and set pieces, some great fights, some really challenging fights as well. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed it, and the story was just great, and how it all came together. I actually found myself getting quite emotional at the end of that 10-year saga, and I know that my friends who I played with felt the same. So I really enjoyed Destiny 2: The Final Shape this year. I haven't played it since, which does say a little bit for the game and where it's gone after the DLC, but yeah, The Final Shape, I enjoyed it. That's why it's number 16 on the list. Coming in at 15 is Never. This is an indie game from Nomada Studio. That's the studio that brought us Gris, which I know Dante has played and said was absolutely fantastic. Never is a gorgeous sort of side-scrolling indie title. It's beautiful. You play a main character, female character, and Never is actually the name of the little wolf cub that starts off as a cub and then grows up as you play through the game. It is an absolutely gorgeous game. The art style and art direction is gorgeous, and I'd say it's taken the next step up for that studio. So Gris didn't really have combat per se, whereas Never does have combat. It does have boss fights, so it's a little bit more challenging in that, but it's mostly a platforming game with the odd bit of combat thrown in. But it's a beautiful game, and you can beat it in about 4 to 5 hours, so it's not a huge game, but if you like these sorts of games, then I think you will definitely enjoy it. And yeah, it was just a really cute, really nice game that I played at the back end of the year. I played it over the Christmas holidays on my Steam Deck, and yeah, really, really enjoyed it. I think the Steam Deck is a good place to play this sort of title. Coming in at 14 is Nine Souls. I actually streamed this one back when it came out around about May, June, and really, really enjoyed it. I've been interested in Nine Souls for a while, actually. This is from a developer called Red Candle Games, and it's got a gorgeous art style. It's sort of like Tau punk. The actual combat is brutal in Nine Souls. It's basically Sekiro. That's what it is. It's all about parrying at the right time and getting that timing down. So when you start off, it can take you through your paces. It can kick your butt, but the story is really cool. The setting is really cool. The art style is gorgeous. The music's really nice. And once you get the vibes, once you get the rhythm, the combat's actually really, really satisfying. But it's not higher up on this list because I haven't beaten it. And I've only played a few hours into the game, and I definitely want to go back and play more. I think it's actually a title that'll be really, really good handheld. So I think it'll be perfectly suited to my Steam Deck. So that might be one that I pick at over the year. Coming in at 13 is Banisher's Ghosts of New Eden. I loved this game. I haven't beaten it yet. I've played about 8 hours of the game. This is, of course, from Don't Nod. They've brought out a lot of really great games in the past, from obviously the Life is Strange series, as well as Vampire. And this is their next title. The concept of Banishers is just so cool. You basically play Red McCreed. He's a Scottish banisher. He has a partner with him who, unfortunately, spoilers, dies at the beginning, and you are traveling to New Eden, which is in North America, or at this time it was sort of colonial America, I think, in the 16th century, 17th century. And you're a banisher. So what you do is you investigate what are called hauntings, and it's a bit like a murder mystery to a degree. So you're finding out what happened, with these hauntings, why these ghosts are haunting them, what's happened. You find puzzle pieces and clues and things like that, and then you can basically decide how to meter out justice. So whether or not you will help that ghost to pass on peacefully, whether you will choose to banish that ghost forcefully, or whether or not you actually punish the person still alive that wronged that spirit. But as all part of that, you're also sort of torn because your partner did die and come back as a spirit, and the only way to bring her back is actually to sacrifice the lives of people. So it very much has like a very grey kind of moral story, but the writing is just absolutely superb. The voice acting is fantastic, and I'm loving the whole choice and consequence side to the story. If you really do like your choice and consequence games with just really solid writing, I think you're really going to enjoy Banish's Ghosts of New Eden. It isn't higher on my list because I do think the combat could be better. It is a little clunky, I'm not going to lie. You can switch between both characters, and there are light and heavy attacks. You do have a pistol, you do have a sword, but the camera isn't great, and the combat it's a little clunky in places. So because of that, that's why it's lower down on my list this year. But I still highly recommend it. It is a really, really good game. And yeah, if you're looking for a good story and an interesting premise, definitely I think Banishers will have you covered. Coming in at 12 is The Plucky Squire. This came out in September, and it was one of my most anticipated games this year. Published by Devolver Digital and developed by All Possible Futures. This is an incredibly cute sort of 2D/3D puzzle action game where you play this animated character, this cartoon character called Jot. The art style, the direction, the narration is as cute as a button. It's an adorable game, but what really makes it stand out is the very interesting gameplay ideas involved. So there are parts where you play 2D, and then there are parts where you can actually physically jump out of a storybook and then explore the world and play in 3D. And it reminds me a lot of It Takes Two, in that there are certain parts of the game where the game really tries to push the boundaries in terms of genres and trying out different genres of games, and it's just it's a joy to play. It's really fun, and it's full of surprises. It's cute, it's creative, and it has such a wholesome story as well. And there's some really great funny twists in it as well. There are some moments that really made me completely laugh out loud, and I really enjoyed it. It's also a fairly short game. You can actually beat it in about 8 hours, and I enjoyed every moment of it. So that's why it's quite high on my list. Coming in at number 11 is Dragon Age the Veilguard. Of course, this was definitely my most anticipated game of 2024. You guys, of course, know I'm a massive BioWare fan. It's been 10 years since the last Dragon Age game. And so, yeah, suffice it to say, I was really excited for this. It isn't in my top 10 because while I think, Dragon Age the Veilguard has some good parts to it, and there is fun to be had with the game, and I did enjoy my time with the game, I do think it is flawed, and I do think a lot could have been done better, in terms of the story and the writing, and especially in terms of the lore. There are almost elements of it, as someone that loves the original Dragon Age games, there are decisions that were made that for me I think were the wrong call, but I'll go into them in a lot more detail in my review. But there are certain things of it that I really enjoyed. I think the main story has issues with pacing. I definitely think it does have big issues with pacing. There are some issues with the writing and minute-to-minute dialogue, which can sometimes be incredibly cringy and just very awkward and don't seem well suited, to what's going on. But then there are moments in the game where it just does something and it's just great. You're thinking, oh, this is brilliant. Like the entire last act, for example, in Veilguard, the way in which they pull it all together is really good. I thought the ending was great, and I thought that they did a good job with that. That was one of the things I had an issue with in Inquisition. I thought the ending was really poor. I wasn't happy about the fact that really they didn't resolve the story until the Trespasser DLC, which is completely optional. So I think that was wrong. But there were elements of Veilguard. You know, the Weishaupt section was absolutely fantastic. The entire opening section with solos was really cool. So there were moments where, you know, the story was firing on all cylinders, and the set pieces and were just epic. And the game is gorgeous. I mean, it looks beautiful. The environmental team have done a phenomenal job in terms of locations, and it's really great to be able to go to Minrathous, to go to Weishaupt, to see these locations, and they did a really good job with them. Similarly, the combat and the gameplay, I really enjoyed it. I actually think that this is some of the best combat technically that we've had in a Dragon Age game. If you like your action combat, of course. If you're more into your like traditional, you know, CRPG, then it's going to be Origins for you. But I actually liked the combat in Dragon Age the Veilguard. I've played through all three classes, from, you know, Mage, Warrior, and also Rogue, and I've actually enjoyed all of them. I do think that the combat gets a little bit samey, particularly later on towards higher levels, and some of the enemies do get a little bit spongy, but I did have fun. I had fun with the game, so that's why it's number 11 on my list. But it didn't blow me away, and it didn't leave me with thoughts after it, if that makes sense, once I'd finished it. So that's why it hasn't hit my top 10 in 2024. So we are now at the point where we're going to talk about the top 10 games that came out this year, and coming in at number 10 is The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. This came out in September, and it's phenomenal. It's a really cute game. For me, I was so excited that we actually get to play as Zelda for the first time properly in a Zelda game, but I thought it was a really cool, creative concept. They take elements of Link's Awakening. Obviously, the visual style of it is very cutesy, very similar to Link's Awakening. So if you like that style, you're going to enjoy Legend of Zelda: Echoes of the Wisdom. But I do know that art style's not for everyone, but I enjoyed it. So it's got elements of Link's Awakening along with Tears of the Kingdom, in terms of being able to like puzzle solve things and create things. You can basically scan anything in the world, including enemies, and then you can make those appear. So you can summon an enemy to fight other enemies, or you can summon a bed and create like a platform and things like that. So I actually thought that the minute-to-minute gameplay in Echoes of Wisdom was really creative, was really fun, and really encouraged imagination. And I'm all for that. I always support that in video games. So I actually really enjoyed it. So it's quite a good, solid game. You know, it's about 29 hours it took to beat it, but we really enjoyed it. And there's some great moments in it. And it was really cool to see Zelda actually rescue Link for a change. So I really enjoyed that. That's why it's number 10 on my list this year. Coming in at number 9 is Helldivers 2. I was surprised how much I enjoyed this game. I haven't put as many hours into it as, say, Edge or our friend Strive. I'd say I've played about 29 hours of it, but yeah, when Helldivers 2 came out, obviously it's a live service game published by Sony Interactive, developed by Arrowhead Games Studios. But Helldivers 2 is the definition of a live service game done right. When it first came out, it just blew me away. Like, the gameplay and gunplay is a lot of fun. It's really creative, really fun. Some of the things that can happen as you're trying to survive is really, really enjoyable, especially some of the things that you can call down on the orbital strikes and things like that. It's a great cooperative game, so it's a great game to play along with your friends. But then the humor and the writing and the voice acting and the style of the game and the character in the game, the game has got so much heart and character to it that it's really funny. And then on top of that, the live service was done really cool. Like, the developers would give the community, you know, tasks or missions to complete, and then depending on whether or not they succeeded or failed with that mission, that would actually then have an impact as to what planets or what areas became available, or what happened in terms of, like, you know, if you took out like certain industrial areas, then you would gain access to like mech suits and things like that. So it was a way of like rewarding and also punishing the community depending on how they were doing, and it was just really fun. It was like a live game that responded to your actions as you were playing it, and it's just really awesome. And I know they had some bad press obviously last year, justifiably so, because of the whole PSN debacle, and it looks like they're trying to get the game back on track now because they had some balancing issues as well. But when I played it back in February, March, April, I really had a lot of fun with Helldivers 2, and I'm definitely want to jump in back in at some point. And I think it'd be fun to play it like maybe with the community if other people do have it. But yeah, really enjoyable. Coming in at number 8 is Star Wars Outlaws. This came out in August, and of course is by Massive Entertainment. I've played about 34 hours of the game, and actually I've really enjoyed my time with it. I've done a full let's play of the game, and I'm planning to continue that and eventually finish it off. But for me, I really enjoyed Star Wars Outlaws. I understand some of the criticism, I do, but I really don't get where all the hate has come from for this game. I actually think it's a very good game. I love the concept. I'm actually happy the fact that we're playing as an outlaw, not playing as a Jedi, you know, with Force powers. I find that really interesting. I find it really refreshing. And playing an almost Han Solo-esque character. It is a combination between stealth and action. And yes, there are certain Force stealth sections, of course, of the game. And I know a lot of people have bounced off of that. But I myself really love my stealth games. And I like sneaking, and I like being patient and watching for routes and things like that. So I actually really enjoyed the balance between the stealth and the action in this game. The story's really good. The voice acting's really good. I think Massive Entertainment have done an absolutely phenomenal job in terms of making the worlds feel vibrant and lived in. Just being able to like discover things in the world was really cool. Walking into a cantina, overhearing a conversation that might tell you about a certain side quest over here or a piece of treasure over here or whatever, and then going to that, explore that. I thought the way in which you discovered things was really natural and really interesting, and I much prefer that over cluttering a map with multiple icons. So there was a lot of this game that was really good that was kind of undermined because of all the negative press that was happening at the time. I myself didn't have any of the major bugs that people were talking about. I didn't really experience that myself, so I can't really comment on that. But I enjoyed what I played, and I enjoyed the story, and I'm looking forward to playing more. And it's definitely number 8 on my list, and it was good. It was a good time, and I think it was a similar situation with Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. That's another game that was made by Massive that was incredibly overshadowed and really sort of was a really good game, and just gorgeous, incredible environmental designs, really interesting open world, and just kind of got looked over. And I feel that Star Wars Outlaws is kind of the same. Ubisoft do deserve bad press when they deserve it, but certainly I didn't think Star Wars Outlaws was as bad as people made out. I think I probably would have scored it like a 7 out of 10. It was a very good game, and I really enjoyed it. Coming in at number 7 is Stellar Blade. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed Stellar Blade this year. I actually did I wasn't planning to, but I actually did a full let's play of this game. It took me about 34 hours to beat it. This is actually the debut title from Shift Up. They're a Korean-based studio, I think, and I was really impressed by it. The actual combat was fantastic. The combat was so good. Like, it's Souls-like-esque, but not punishing. It's a lot about sort of reading rhythms and getting those parries and counters in correctly, but I really enjoyed it. I thought the music was great, really good. Obviously the main character Eve, I know there was a lot of controversy because of the style and the design, but I didn't really have any issues with that. I thought the voice acting wasn't great. I thought the voice acting could have been a lot better, and the story definitely has Nier Automata vibes to it, most definitely. I haven't played that game, but apparently it does borrow quite heavily from well, they say it was inspired by, but apparently it does borrow quite heavily from it. But I'm gonna say that the combat, the action combat, was really, really enjoyable, and I played it all the way through. Really enjoyed my experiences with it. I'm even considering playing New Game Plus. That's how much I enjoyed it, and that's why it's number 7 on my list. It's a good time, and I definitely recommend it. I think it's a PlayStation exclusive, I think, at the moment. Coming in at number 6 is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I was really surprised by this one this year. So there's 2 Ubisoft games that are in my top 10 this year. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is a side-scrolling action adventure game. Obviously you don't play the Prince of Persia, you actually play another character in the army, but I still really enjoyed it. I thought the platform, the visual style I really liked, but the minute-to-minute platforming and combat in this game was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So fluid, so responsive. The different things that you can do and chain together. Some of the boss fights in Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown were just incredibly challenging. So when you did overcome them, that sense of achievement was really, really good. And I'm really sad that it didn't get more love and more recognition this year, because it was one of the best action side-scrolling games that came out this year. It's one of the best games that came out this year, and so I wanted to see it represented a little bit more at the Game Awards. But for me personally, I really enjoyed it, and that's why it's quite high up on my list. Number 5 this year is Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. This is from Saber Interactive, and God, this game was good. So I actually played this cooperatively with Dante and Fish. Fish obviously being a massive Warhammer nut, who's now gotten me into Warhammer, actually painting figures and reading lore books and all of that. But I played the first Space Marines prior to this because I wanted a little bit of sort of backstory on it. But Space Marines 2 just blew me away. Honestly, this game is just so incredible looking. It's awesome. Like from seeing the hordes of Tyranids coming at you and knowing that every one of those, is coming for you and can attack you, and it's not just a background kind of sandbox. I thought that was just so impactful. But then the combat, it's definitely like that kind of, it lets you live out your hero fantasy. You are a Space Marine and you are a killing machine, and you definitely feel it as you walk through. You're just a hulking tank, and God, it's just so much fun to play. The spectacle of it's a popcorn flick. It's fun. It's full of adrenaline. It's excitement. It's a Hollywood summer blockbuster. That is what Space Marines 2 is. It has a really good campaign, and also really good PvE cooperative missions as well, and it also has PvP as well. So this game came with a lot more at release, at launch, than I was actually expecting, not only from the different classes that you can play, but the different weapons, and then you can upgrade those weapons, and you can customize the way that your Space Marine looks in the PvE and the PvP. There's just so much here. It has the potential to be a really great live service game if it continues to add content to it. But the 15 hours that I've put into the game, I loved every moment, and I'm really looking forward to jumping back in and just playing more. It's a great game. Really, really good game. Coming in at number 4 is Astrobot. I actually played this at the back end of the year, over Christmas period, and just loved it. Astrobot is just the cutest, most amazing platforming game. It's obviously from Team Asobi. Now, I knew back in 2020 when I played Astro's Playroom, at that time that was more of a tech demo, so it was more there to showcase what the PlayStation controller was capable of, the haptic feedback and sensors and everything. And I really enjoyed Astro's Playroom, so ever since then I've been waiting for Team Asobi to do a full-on proper platforming game, and they did not disappoint in Astrobot. We played it and beat it in about 12 hours, and it's just joyful. It's so much fun to play from start to finish. The level designs. It's such a homage to PlayStation. It's the perfect game to come out this year, with it being the 30th anniversary of the PlayStation 1. And yeah, there's just so much joy in there. There's so much love for, you know, PlayStation history and characters and little Easter eggs and hidden things that you can discover. But then also the actual platforming gameplay it's a solid platformer. It's a really good platformer. As you play through each level, you'll get like different kind of unlockable abilities that you can use, and they never overstay their welcome. So it changes up the gameplay and the traversal with every single mission, and the game's constantly throwing surprises at you, which is really awesome. There's then some really challenging speedrun quests, which are really hard missions to do. You'll die a lot, but they're a lot of fun once you get that rhythm, once you get them. And then there's just some really great little like Easter egg moments where you get to play as like characters, and you play as Kratos or play as Aloy, and yeah, they're just really cute. They're really cute. And then they do a really cool little musical remix for those games as well. And as someone who has obviously owned a PlayStation 2, PlayStation 4, and now PlayStation 5, yeah, it was really good to kind of see those familiar characters. And yeah, Astrobot, really recommend it. If you've got a PlayStation 5 and you like your platforming games, this is a great game, I think, as well, if you've got kids, because it reminds me of like Mario, you know, Mario World, when, you know, you were kids and you first discovered that, and it taught you how to be a good, you know, a good gamer, to play platforming games. And I feel that Astrobot will be that way, you know, for a lot of young kids, and it's certainly a better game to introduce to young children than some of the other crap that we have out there at the moment. But yeah, really recommend it. Fantastic game. Coming in at number 3 is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I picked this up over Christmas as well. I've been playing it on the Game Pass. It's of course by Machine Games. They obviously bought us the Wolfenstein series, New Order and New Colossus being the best out of those. Youngblood, that never happened. Awful game. That never happened. But I've always known that Machine Games is a good developer, and I love Indiana Jones. I love the movies. I'm a history nut, and so I was very curious to check out this game, and Indiana Jones and the Great Circle did not disappoint. This is a phenomenal game. It's an incredible game. The story is fantastic. The Troy Baker absolutely kills it as Indiana Jones. Like, you really do think it's Harrison Ford. Like, he does such a good job. The story is great. The voice acting is great. The villains are perfect. Just so cheesy, but also really good, like just really great. There's moments that are just little musical cues, little touches that really do bring, you know, make it feel like you're playing one of the movies. And then the story's really interesting. The puzzle solving side of it and all the mysteries. There are like 3 areas that are kind of like sandbox areas where you can discover side quests and side missions, but then those side missions then tie into the main mission. It's just a phenomenal game. It is a fantastic game, and it really works. I was really unsure about the whole first person thing, but it really does work, especially when you're obviously, you know, doing fisticuffs and punching enemies as Indiana and using your whip to disarm them and things like. It's just so good. It's just such a good game, and I definitely recommend it. And I haven't beaten it yet. I've put 18 hours into it, but I'm definitely going to beat it. And I'm absolutely going to review the game as well, I think, because I've really, really enjoyed it. I've been quite surprised by how much I enjoyed it this year. So we are now up to the last 2 games coming in 2024. Now, I'm not going to lie. These 2 games went back and forth, constantly back and forth in terms of what was my game of the year. But coming in at number 2 is Metaphor ReFantazio. This is a JRPG, of course, from Atlas, the studio that bought us Persona 5. I loved Persona 5. That was actually the first game I played from Atlas. But when I heard about Metaphor ReFantazio being like an Atlas-style game but set in a fantasy world, I was completely sold. But I was not expecting it to be as good as it was. And Metaphor ReFantazio is a phenomenal game. It's an incredible game. The writing, the The world, the lore is so interesting. The cast of characters are so good. Not only from like your main cast of companions, but even like side companions and side characters all have their own story and their own like full-on character arc, and just the writing is just so good. The main story is so good. The villains are so complex and interesting and just phenomenal. And then on top of all of that, you have what is probably one of the best turn-based systems that I've played recently. The archetype system is so good, and it has so much scope for like build craft in terms of, because you can, you know, level up these archetypes, of course, but then you can also inherit certain skills from other archetypes that you've trained under. So you can create some pretty cool like synergies and builds which are really awesome, so that you can just break the game. It's really fun, really fun. But the writing is just so good, so good. The only reason it's number 2 is I still think there are elements of the game that are a little bit old-fashioned for me. So I like voice acting in my RPGs, and I can't get down sometimes. There are certain moments in even companion stories where none of it's voice acted, it's all just text, and I really would have liked it to have been voice acted. I know that's going to cost them more money in terms of getting the you know, voice actors to do that stuff, but I really it would have added to it. So that was the only reason I think for me why it didn't get number 1, because there are still certain elements, and the back end of the game, I'm not going to lie, right at the end it does get a little bit too grindy for my taste, for my liking. So that had an impact, I would say, on it. But we put like 176 hours into Metaphor ReFantazio, and you don't put 176 hours into a game that you're not absolutely loving. And it was a very close second, very close second. But yeah, if you like your JRPGs and you really enjoyed Persona 5, you really should play Metaphor ReFantazio, because it's just fantastic. Really good. But coming in at number 1, my game of the year for 2024 is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So I played this game together with Dante. We played it together, you know, on my PlayStation 5 back when it came out in February, and loved it. Absolutely loved it. This game still sticks with me, and even when I hear certain musical cues and music, and they remind you of things, and I you know, I get emotional. You know, I start to feel, you know, these emotions again. And a game that can do that even 8 or 9 months later definitely deserves my game of the year. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is just a beautiful game, a great sequel to Remake. It takes a lot of the issues I had in Remake and improves on them. So the side quests in Rebirth are so much better. So much better. In Remake, they were more like fetch quests, whereas here they have purpose. They have a story, you know, a story through. The open world side of it, I thought there was a little bit too much of that personally, but also then these open world areas were really gorgeous to look at. But the story, the characters, the voice acting, it's just incredible. And to see what they've done with the original and the way in which they've kind of like updated it for modern audiences, expanded upon so much. The Golden Saucer section's fantastic. Cosmo Canyon's great. There's just so many awesome moments that happen in the game. And just these characters, they're just so well written, and they're just so human and flawed and believable. And when you compare it to some other RPGs that have been written this year, like it's just on a whole other level. It really is just on a whole other level, and I absolutely loved it. Then on top of that, the combat was already good in Remake, but they've actually improved it in Rebirth, which I didn't think was possible. But the new synergy system in Rebirth was just phenomenal, and being able to synergize and do combo attacks with certain companions, which just were awesome. Just really enjoyable. So yeah, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is just, it's perfection. It's just gorgeous, from the story, the voice acting, the cast of characters, the music, the gameplay, the visual design and looks, the environmental designs. Everything is just so good, so good. And I'm really looking forward to part 3. I'm kind of half looking forward, half dreading it, because I don't want it to be over. That's how much I'm enjoying it. But yeah, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was just a phenomenal game, and we beat it in about 118 hours, but every hour of that was just a joy. It was just so much fun to play it, and that is why it is my game of the year. So there you go, guys. Those are the 23 games that I played this year. It's quite a big video, so thank you if you've watched the entire video and stuck with me this entire time. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on these games that I played this year. Let me know what you guys think of this style of game, or if you prefer me doing just my top 10. Please do let me know in the comment section below. I'm always open to feedback. But thank you so much again. I just want to say a thank you to everybody who supported the channel this past year. I hope you've enjoyed the content that has come out. Thank you, of course, to my channel members and Patreons for going the extra mile to support the channel. I appreciate you all, and I'm just so grateful to have you all and to have such a great community. I am really looking forward to 2025 and many more great games ahead, and I'm looking forward to making more content for you all. So I hope you guys look forward to that. But yeah, hope you guys have a great week, of course. Let me know in the comment section below what games you've played this year that came out this year. What are your favorite games? Please do share those in the comment section below. Let's share them. So anyway, hope you guys have a great week, of course. Take care, and as always, happy gaming. I should go.